Lesson 3.2, complex numbers. How do you define and use the imaginary unit I? So we're now being asked to solve for quadratic equations and solving for x. So because this is an x squared and there are no other x's here, I know I can solve this problem using square roots. So we're going to subtract the 4 from each side. So this is x squared equals a negative 4. I need the x by itself, which means this exponent of a 2 needs to go away. So I'm going to square root both sides. The square root and the exponent of a 2 cancel each other out, so I'm left with x equals, I chose to write this square root. Because I chose to write the square root, I need a plus or minus. Taking the square root of a negative 4 means I have to separate the negative 1 from the 4. So x equals plus or minus. We know that the square root of negative 1 is I. So here's my I. And the square root of 4 is 2. So x equals plus or minus 2i. The I part gets written after the number. So we just answered it's plus or minus 2i. Solving for problem number 2, I want to get this x squared by itself. So I'm going to add the 11 to each side. So I get a 2x squared equaling a negative 36. I need to divide both sides by 2. So I get an x squared equaling a negative 18. I need to get the x by itself, which means I need to take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x. I chose to take the square root, which means I need a plus or minus because I chose. I need to separate the negative 1 from the 18. So x equals plus or minus. The square root of negative 1 is I. The square root of 18, if you need to see it over here, that is 2 times 3 times 3, where the 3's paired up and got to escape, the 2 had to stay inside. So the 3's escaped, the 2 had to stay inside. So when you write this final answer, the I comes after the number, but not after the square root. So you would write this as plus or minus, there were 3 i's, and you still had that 2 on the inside. Problem number 6. I need to solve for the x squared, so I need to subtract the 33 from each side. So I get a 5x squared equaling a negative 30. You divide both sides by 5, so x squared equals a negative 6. I need the x by itself, so I need to take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x. I chose to take the square root. If you choose to take the square root, you need plus or minus. I need to separate the negative 1 from the 6. So x equals the plus or minus of the square root of negative 1 is an I. You need to prime factorize 6, and if you need to see it, the prime factorization of 6 is 2 times 3. Nobody pairs, which means nobody gets to escape. So square root of 6 is still the square root of 6. And this is how we write it. The I does not come after the square root because then you're going to accidentally write it underneath the square root sign. So the I is always immediately before the square root symbol. There are 5 problems left on the page for independent practice. Please go ahead and do these.